Hi, my name is Christian Sadler, and recently I attended a one-day workshop with Brilliant Miller about public speaking. Now, we had created a message inside that workshop, and then we were challenged to share it publicly. What I had created inside of that workshop, not knowing I was going to be sharing publicly, was about suicide. So I have to let you know that what I'm about to share might be emotionally charged for some of you. Before I start, though, I just want to ask a question. I want you to think, what comes to mind when you hear the word hopelessness? Because for me, I believe hopelessness is the cause of many of the evils of this world. Stealing, rape, murder, suicide oftentimes come and start from hopelessness. I remember the first time I made the decision that I was going to attempt and commit suicide. And it was actually right here in this room. Now, I don't know how young I was, but I will tell you, I remember I had to reach up in order to reach the doorknob. I had asked to stay up one more time. And I can't remember if I asked for a drink or something to eat, but my parents got mad and said, "No, go to bed." I always kind of dealt with insomnia my whole life, and so I went to bed, but I wasn't sleeping. And as I laid there awake, I could hear my parents at the bottom of these stairs arguing and fighting. And somehow, in my young mind, I made that about me. I had made the decision that I was the cause of the problems, and I wasn't fit to continue on this earth. And I had a long sleeve pajama top on. And so I took it off to my neck and I wrapped it around one extra time. I was on the bottom bunk of a bunk bed, and so I slipped it up through the slats and I had pulled myself up to where I was lifting myself off the bed. And I remember it was to that point where I was seeing black with white dots. And I heard my mother's voice yelling at me. She said my name, Christian. And the funny thing is, I was more afraid of being in trouble than I was of dying. So I hurried and got my shirt back on, and I came running up to the door, and I stood as tall as I could to just pretend that everything was okay. And I wish I could say that that was the only time in my life that I ever dealt with suicide. But I have many memories. I have one where when my room was in this basement bedroom, my brother kicked in the door, and sitting next to me was my fillet knife because I knew it had to be sharp because I wouldn't dare if I couldn't do it fast. I remember the first home that I ever bought, Kearns, Utah. It's a little 3-bedroom house. And I had just started a business and quit my job, and I felt like I was losing everything. All of my bills were behind. My power was turned off. I had to make a decision at night whether I was going to get food for me or for my dog. And I chose my dog. And I woke up the next morning feeling so much like a failure that I reached down on the side of my bed. And I could feel the cold chrome of my 1911 Colt 45. And I picked it up, and I pointed it at my head, and I pulled the trigger. And somehow, some way, unlike any other time before, my safety was on. Now, I'm happy to say that with many years of personal development, it's not that I'm immune to those thoughts, but I'm able to move through them much more quickly. And I've had opportunities to realize just how much my life does matter to others. You see, the interesting thing is when my parents were right here arguing, it was most likely because of my dad's alcoholism. My dad died from alcoholism when I was 10 years old. And really, this is a full circle story for you. Because, here we are in my childhood home that I've been able to completely remodel. And we're going to sell this so we can pay down the remodeled house that my mother was able to get into based on the knowledge that I've been able to gain. But on top of that, I had an opportunity recently where I was at an event, and a gentleman, Jeff, walked up to me, and he said, "Hey, you don't know this, but you're a big reason why I'm here. I saw you speak at an event about 5 years ago, and out of the dozen speakers that were there, your message gave me hope that I could change." And Jeff said, at that time, I was a full-blown alcoholic. To the point where I had gone to the hospital twice with internal bleeding. I was on the verge of dying from alcoholism. But being there at that event and hearing your message inspired me that I could be more, that I could do more. And so I got into recovery. And now Jeff has been years sober. What if I hadn't stuck around? What if I wasn't willing to share about my own challenges? I might not have been able to save my dad's life, but at least I had a small impact on somebody else. So if you are ever thinking that you are not enough, my message to you is that you are. And you are here for a reason. And no matter how hard things get, no matter how hopeless they seem, we need you here. We want you here. Stay. I couldn't get myself to post this without adding one more piece. And that is, if you are in a position where you need to lift yourself up out of those dark thoughts, I want to share with you 3 things that I know that I need to pay attention to in hopes that they will be helpful to you. The first thing that I know I need to pay attention to when I'm having those thoughts, when I'm down in the depths, is I need to pay attention to what am I putting into my mind? What am I listening to? What am I watching? What am I reading? It's really easy to get sucked into the energy of listening to a bunch of sad songs because it resonates with the energy that I'm already in. I need to consciously choose something different in order to change my energy. The next thing is, who am I surrounding myself with? I look back at many of my darkest times, and it was times when I chose to step away or separate myself from the people who believed in me and the people who encouraged me. I know oftentimes I might convince myself in those dark moments that I might be a burden on somebody else, and so that's why I don't reach out. I can tell you the times that I have chosen to reach out, sometimes to complete strangers that I looked up to and that I respected, have come to be some of my most important relationships. So get around people who inspire you and who lift you up. And then the last thing is, do I have a goal that I'm moving towards? Do I have something that I'm consciously working towards that means something to me? It doesn't matter if it means anything to anybody else. So you have to think to yourself, are you looking to learn that next dance move or start a new business? If it's something that matters to you and you can progress towards it, that will help pull you out of the depths, or at least it has for me. There's actually studies out there that say happiness does not come from the achievement of things, but from the progress towards achievement. So I hope that if you're ever in the spot where you're wondering, what can I do to pull myself out of this funk? How can I get rid of these dark thoughts? You can think back to these 3 things that have helped me.